Welcome to the Uncle Ken Show. Today we're here with Martin Phan. We're here with Tim, Phantom Feels, and Real Human Photography. Just a quick plug for you guys.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show, guys. And honestly, if the audience could have seen what we were doing, they would have appreciated it a lot more. But hey, the thumbnail and the audio will tell.
We made it in the end.
Took us a hot minute.
Okay, so why don't we start by just saying what have we been doing the past few minutes? Just getting set up.
Well, I think there's probably a lot to dive into with what Martin's been doing over the last half an hour. I think it might be best because I don't know too much about you, Martin, but I've just witnessed you for the last half an hour like fiddle with multiple like lights, cameras, audio equipment. Where do you get that background?
It probably starts us from like me watching too much YouTube and like getting to tech too much.
Nice.
And then from there, just last 5 or so years of playing around with like cameras and we started with like iPads and iMovie, right? Just shoot something, make something fun, and then slowly learning from that point on.
Yeah. Is there like a defining moment that you would consider sparked your creative interests?
Oh, probably like, as I said, like that like iMovie moment of like this is being like late primary school, right?
Because I certainly have memories myself of being in like English class or something like that, being armed with a camera and my friends and getting told like shoot a movie. And I've got some of those old things documented, and going back to watch it now, there's so many like tropes of being a like middle school kid with a camera. But that was kind of essentially just being given the tools to start to use. But like you had the iMovie and all that kind of stuff. Where did you kind of go to from there? Because if you started kind of making movies, like not everyone from school kind of transitions into working with so many equipment. So how was the next step kind of happening?
Well, it's kind of funny. It's now a story of like in my family, my dad, he keeps buying like these like family camcorders and whatnot, right? And he uses them for like a week or maybe a month, and then it's lying around. So from that point on, I just started grabbing like this gear we had lying around and just shooting.
Would you have any kind of like intent in doing that, or is it just kind of like cool to have it and shoot something?
It was just kind of fun, to be honest. Like at that point in my life, going into high school, I was watching guys like Casey Neistat who were like trying to vlog daily, making these cool like short little like movies, right? I told like a short story of the day, story of what happens to this place. But it was interesting.
Yeah, and you kind of use that as a little bit of inspiration. Did you ever vlog?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately,
yes.
What would be like a favorite vlog of yours? Like, do you have a kind of golden nugget like among your vlogging years?
Man, I hope no one tries to surface these up, but like
I'm gonna try.
Please don't. Like there was a couple times where I just go somewhere to the city with my friends, that sort of thing, or I traveled interstate with some family and I just took my camera with me and like did a little like in the mirror, just little practice beforehand. It's like, hey guys,
you got the practice down.
Well, no, sort of, because my camera didn't have like a flip out screen, right? So I gotta try to like figure it out somehow.
Very nice.
That's so. It's very interesting to hear your particular story with regards to that.
Yeah.
When did you start to become a bit more serious with regards to it? The vlog started getting into more. This is because at a certain point, like you mess around, you see things on YouTube, and you film for the fun of it. But then at a certain point, I know for me, it started to turn into like more of a passion, more of a hobby, or something like that I would consider a lot. How did you sort of transition away from that?
So at some point in those like mid years of high school, there was an opportunity that arose to me for like a little 1-minute film competition. And like for the hell of it, I just had a try, just did this little almost political like 1 minute piece, right, saying like, you know, all things wrong with the world. Somehow it just ended up being like the one that won a little competition.
Are you able to give a brief summary of what that 1 minute short was?
Oh, it was more like a 1 minute speech with like semi-cinematic like little footage of the city on like, you know, things representing pollution, homelessness, and that sort of thing. And yeah,
drawing on particular themes and things and trying to echo them.
I think like it honestly wasn't that impressive, but just like as like a, what I would be like a 13, 14-year-old, just touching on those kind of topics to somewhat of an audience made an impact.
Because there's one thing going from vlogging in the mirror to starting to bring in bring in tools like, hey, I'm Martin, welcome to my vlog. Isn't pollution bad? Like
yeah.
But as much as I can keep talking to Martin about it, I know we're on Ken's show as well.
Yeah.
So
No, that's all right. You can pass the baton to me. I can pass it to you. No worries at all.
That's all right, because I know I don't know too much about your background as well, and I know that you have very much of a very similar creative but yet very applied mind.
A very different output to Martin, but well, I'd say Martin, like we were just saying, your ability, you look very meticulous when you're working on the tools, because end of the day, these are all just tools or physical objects that we work with, so we can have an output, right?
Of course.
A craft, right? So part of having you both on the show, Tim, Martin, you guys included, is because you guys, this is my way of saying thank you to you both. So you guys have helped me along the journey, and I want to make sure I can help you along the journey. Maybe this podcast goes somewhere, maybe it doesn't. At least people will look back on it and see where it started and the people that helped me.
Yeah.
So I will say, Martin, you're probably one of the first people I really wanted to work with. Tim, you came by surprise. Tim, you came by surprise. And honestly, the best blessing I've had, because your work is awesome. It's helped me. Like, I can't even say like enough. Like the angles and stuff that you shot at one of my first car meets was absolutely awesome. Martin, you may not have seen the dream and the vision initially, but now that you see where it's gone, I think you have a bigger picture understanding of how far more it could go. Well, if not, man, I really appreciate your work. I love your work, man. I'm a big fan. Dude. I'll pump this guy up every day. This guy too. These guys are awesome. Just so the viewers know, these guys are awesome content creators. Please follow them on Instagram. You'll know exactly what these guys are doing. So I'd love to get into both of you, your personal stories. I think a really important aspect is that we are creatives. We are using a platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? Maybe not Facebook as much, but yeah.
I've kind of had an on and off relationship with Facebook, because through my last year, I've predominantly used Instagram as like a focus. Is that whole initial like kind of unexpected goal for me was to hit 365 days of consistent posting on Instagram.
Nice, congrats on
and
that. Just
like through natural evolution, it was kind of like Facebook took by the wayside because you had so much focus like pumping into that one thing. Meta's trying to integrate both Instagram and Facebook into the same kind of creative suites, and it is so close to being like probably the primary tool to use for that. But it, as a creative, there are some like very minute details that software just doesn't pick up on that kind of destroys its intent for me.
Yeah, like photographers, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's as simple as like the image quality drops when you post through the suite. So it's like, why would I want to use the suite when as a photographer I want to present the best ability of my work? I don't want to post something that's low quality. I want to post high quality. So if I've presented with the choice of using your mobile app for Instagram, which is going to give me the best quality, or using all of your scheduling tools and all the business suite stuff that you provide me otherwise, it doesn't mean anything if you like post it in a terrible quality. And so that's where it ended up being kind of doubling up on the workflow, is you had to kind of prep things for Facebook and then prep things for Instagram, especially because I was kind of working with watermarks and trying to find myself in terms of where the images go and whether or not I'm making money out of it, like clientele. So there's kind of been a back and forth between that. Now that the 365 days of Instagram has like finished, I've got a lot more flexibility and freedom, and there's been a lot more that's been going to Facebook over the last couple of days, and it's been getting like good support, because I used to feel that Facebook tended to have if you weren't posting to a group or something like that, you generally wouldn't have good traction. But most stuff at the moment seems to be doing okay for what it is and getting plenty of shares and things, which is good too.
I still think Facebook is very heavily underrated now that it's a bit of an older audience, right?
It's difficult because I feel like there's obviously a lot of people. You've got TikTok, which is rising as a very primary social platform, to the point now where obviously that's being used as a messaging tool. Like TikTok is kind of becoming one of the prime members of the messaging apps and stuff like that.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because it starts out with, like you can share a TikTok to one another, but then you can obviously type messages and things like that. So I do know people that are using TikTok as a messaging app and then having that cycled with the videos as well.
Cool.
And that's kind of happening, is seeing so many else engaging in a different way in other people's content. And I think about the way, there's a lot that's said about the way that Instagram has transitioned into video content and is leaving behind photographers. But when I think about the way that I interact with content as well recently, I use TikTok and I tend to use it quite a bit. I like watching content, watching short snippets, and there's so much creativity amongst that as well, but also a lot of humor and comedy, and that tends to be a thing that you want to make other people happy and make them laugh and stuff like that, which is where it gets difficult, because in a community where we're starting to move, where the general society is wanting to move towards entertaining content and stuff that's humorous, funny, like quips and all that kind of stuff. As a comparative serious creator, how do you kind of craft yourself in that space? And there is obviously still going to be a demand and stuff like that. It's just currently a lot of people feel that to make a mark in that space, they have to cater to an audience that they wouldn't typically do so, which as a creator is sometimes one of the hardest things to do. But that's why a lot of people, everyone says as a creative, that if you've made it as creative, they always say don't do it to get to this point, because you get where you are because it's something that you love doing. You love tinkering with technology, and just fun. By extension you end up creating things from that. Whereas your passion, as I've started seeing through the way that you work, is through tinkering with everything. And when you get to that point, you're able to use that passion to just end up with a very polished product. And then for me as well, I just love photography. I love getting out there and editing photos. I was always very big on editing, whether it was videos or even that kind of thing. I'd take the same clip and edit it 5 different ways. There's certainly a love for that process, and you just do it so often, you build your hobbies around it, and then eventually because you're just consistently putting out a product, eventually more people notice it. You get better at it, people start to follow along what you're doing, and then that's how you kind of build a general audience.
Tim, I'd love to get more into kind of that Venn diagram of what the market wants and what you want to do. I think that's a big struggle for all of us, the market, meaning the viewers. But I would like to shift to Martin's perspective on, say, the Reels and how he thinks the platform's working at the moment.
So with all of that, it's interesting thing in terms of platforms at the moment, right? You have things like TikTok and Instagram Reels, where it's the go-to place where if you want to grow, that's where the algorithm and all of that is actually pushing your content, right? But then these platforms now are kind of restrict you to what you can and should create if you want to grow as your primary purpose of making things, right?
See, I don't think of it in the same way, because a lot of discussion has happened that it's Instagram that's creating this change. It's the platforms that are creating the change, where it's they're actually just catering to a natural move in the market. Whereas when I think about my own habits, my own usage of it, I mean, I obviously use Instagram a lot, and I use it a lot for photo browsing and stuff like that. But I'm not going to my friends or my family, and I'm not sharing Instagram posts with them. I'm pulling out TikTok and I'm showing funny videos, or I'm showing interesting creative stuff that's been done on there. So what that tends to happen is that I'm quite lucky where I seem to be doing well within Instagram's photo algorithm. So I tend to be, for the amount of followers that I have, I tend to have really good engagement for it.
Wow.
So it's very obviously I'm a marketplace, like I'm a unit of one in experience and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's this kind of thing where people feel like the platforms are forcing them to do so without realizing that in a way that's kind of the content that people are naturally going towards anyway. Photographers are unique because photographers will want to see like other photographers and things like that.
Yep.
But the other way that Reels and TikTok are very interesting is the way that you primarily interact with it is semi-random. So your Reels are not based on people that you follow from the get-go. Your TikTok is not based on people that you follow. It's based on a algorithmic idea of what you would like to watch. And in that, it cycles in different creators, different ideas, different videos, different photos. Whereas when you interact with Instagram in a photo format, you're only looking at a primary feed of people that you follow.
Yeah. What's your idea that it's like this dopamine machine?
Well, that's the whole thing with regards to creativity and entertainment and stuff like that. You know, the television was a dopamine machine.
True.
The radio before that was a dopamine machine. It's just we all found technology and found ways to make entertainment out of it, and that's just by our human design. As we go from playing chess to win, or we turn on the TV to feel good for an hour and stuff like that. There's definitely a lot more discussion that's happened around like how absorbed you can become in it. And that's why the importance in these discussions of like being a creative and being forced by an algorithm as like us, if you were like a starting out creator, it's not something that's going to be, should be your primary focus, because you should be like developing yourself and your creativity, your craft and all that kind of stuff, developing your love for it. Because if you're able to continue through with your love and your passion with it, then it won't matter what the algorithm does. You'll still be able to create content that is good, and there will always be a place for like good content and a unique creative output, whether or not that ends up being in a video, whether or not that ends up being a photo, whether or not that ends up being audio. It's like there's always going to be ways, and if you think about it, of photographers starting to dabble in video, is like they might not want to, but it's another skill that they're learning and stuff as well. There's different ways of like thinking about it stuff too.
And it's like
oh no,
just go for it, bro. I think a big aspect of it is, definitely we're basically creators. We are now people who are in charge of our output, and there's a lot more power to the people these days, rather than media and maybe be like Spider-Man, right? You're sending your photos to the news and they might publish it. I don't know. This is probably the worst analogy possible.
No, but there's a lot that's been said about the like music now. Is that because we through a TikTok, reel, social media world have given so much empowerment to the independent creator, because you no longer rely on the corporation to be able to get to an audience. Is that if you're able to create something that's unique, something that resonates with an audience, or just is like uniquely you, or just something good, people can pick up on that without the need of a corporation spending the money to do so.
That's it.
And so now you see a lot of like Spotify charts and stuff like that are getting filled with independent artists that have had no push from a label whatsoever. It's just because they heard this song on TikTok, and then that they shared it around to that, and then you get a 7 to 30 second snippet of it, and you go, I really like this, I want to listen to it more. You go looking for it, and then you go, oh, I've discovered that again. And so they've now, it's moved into a market where the leverage is much more in the independent artist's hand, because they're getting empowered by these kind of platforms.
I guess it does tie a bit into advertising, and something that I'll do is just a quick plug. If you'd like to fill the space of the podcast of your business or product, if it's something I approve of, more than happy to have you on the show. Your brand or product, anyway.
With the hat on it.
Maybe something like that, yeah. I would like to go more back on how I know you guys, and I think one of the big things for me is that I was, when I first started on Cool Kens, I definitely knew that a social media strategy was the number one. There's no other way you can get influence unless you're on the street shouting at people preaching, right? I'm not a preacher, by the way. But one of the things I noticed was that Reels and all this car stuff, I didn't even think I'd enter on Cool Kens with the car stuff, right? But something I noticed was this bloke, Martin. And I've always been looking at the reels, but I didn't really have a network, and I hadn't even met you yet, Tim, or even any of the other guys in the media team. But something that's like really struck out to me was, Martin, you're real. And this was the first time I came across your content, and this is how you actually knew me. And then we bumped into each other in the street, right? Do you want to go into that a bit more?
Oh, yeah. So
how did that happen? What was it? What happened?
I think this was the Arise Racing event you were talking about?
Yep. I wasn't there, but I saw your content of it, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It was kind of funny, that event. Like, that was like a Lawrence Escalante and Arise Racing special.
Yep.
But like, oh no.
Someone didn't listen to Ken at the start of the podcast.
That's right.
Put aside. I just really
Someone's calling him, just so you guys know.
Yeah, so we bring it back, like, it was like a Arise Racing and Lawrence Escalante special, right? But I showed up and I just didn't take any photos or videos of Lawrence's cars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I saw a Lamborghini like doing a burnout though. That was from afar. Yeah.
That was the only one like actually on the track. But like everything else that's shown that reel was just everything else there parked up. That was just not supercar.
Yeah, so something about that reel I really liked was that around the time, like, people are leveling up their game on reels, like videographers, and you do photography, you do videography, just so people understand. Not to say you guys can't dabble in both, but something that stood out to me was your use of camera angles, reels, music, and then even B-roll. Is that the right word? B-roll, or what is it? Swooshes and transitions. Not even using like the TikTok like transitions you did on PC or something like that. What happened there?
So to get technical about that one, that was just a couple of just smooth gimbal moves, right?
Oh, yep.
With some speed wrapping. So some parts you put faster and slow down some parts, and then that just looks a lot smoother in the reel like that.
Time to the music as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And then that one was actually heavily inspired by a guy named Back Visuals, who is a European guy, I think.
Yeah.
And he basically did a very similar thing with the exact same song to like a push a week earlier.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's no harm in following something that's been done before,
what's
especially
the thing
if you
that's
do
always
it well.
said? It's like good artists create, great artists steal, or something like that.
Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Exactly.
That's another one. Similar meaning. But that's what I really liked about your work. And then shortly after I reached out to you, we bumped into each other on the street. I think you were running an order.
Chicken.
Fried chicken. We got fried chicken here as well, just so you guys know. I don't know if we'll eat it on the podcast.
It's all come full circle. That's actually was Ken's whole game. Was we went to KFC and he was going to pull the fried chicken like thematics.
I do like fried chicken. Sorry, vegans. So that'll be another topic. But I'd love to have a vegan on the show, actually.
It would just be a standard podcast. Like there's nothing to do with them being a vegan. It's just, and we've introduced this person who's a vegan. This is the podcast. It's going to go like anything else.
I won't eat fried chicken on the show. I'm not like that. Don't think so, unless it gets abused. I don't know. But
low-key, there are some vegetables that are fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. I love vegetables.
Yeah.
Fried chicken and vegetables. But not always fried chicken. Fried chicken can be
We just needed to establish this right off the bat that we do like chicken as well as vegetables. So now that we've got that, we can continue.
We're omnivores,
That's for sure. Yeah. So I guess after that, we bumped into each other in the street. And I think you're getting some fried chicken. I was going to training. And then
I recognized your Shock Market like license plate.
Oh, yes.
I think I know that guy.
Yeah. Did I have the license plate that said Ken at the time, or was that before that? Probably
before that.
But I realised you had like an Audi A4. I was like, nice car, mate.
Oh, yeah. You should see the repair bill I just got for it.
Oh, that's why you weren't driving it here, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Euros, man.
After that, we reached out. We started working together. You came around to one of my third meets. And then the next meet was WA Day.
That's right. Yeah, because I'm struggling to remember, because I think WA Day was the first meet that I'd went to of yours. I can't specifically remember knowing of you before that point, which is kind of a lagging moment, because there's the point that you interact with something, and then there's a point you remember interacting with something. So it's like I'd probably come across like Uncle Ken before that, but WA Day was that first event where it was like, I will go to that event because of I think at that point you'd had a meet previously.
I've done around 3 meets before, and then WA Day was the 4th, and this is where you both tie in. So around that time, I'd paid for your services and hadn't seen the ROI come in yet. But then Don't worry about it. I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a second, guys. You should definitely hire out this guy for videography, this guy for photography for any of your events. 100%. I'll plug you guys any day.
That was like a backhanded compliment. Like,
yeah, 100%. No, I'll get to that because I did. So,
oh no.
Yeah. So the thing that happened was this WA Day meet. I was like, oh, the meets have been good. What excites me about them? And I was like, WA Day, no one's doing a meet this day. So it's just like, I'll do it. Not just that, let me find the biggest car park. Let me see how big I can scale it. Did a bunch of marketing, got some photos. The photos were from Martin. Martin, your GR Yaris photo. Or if it wasn't you, it was Tarika Mozilla. I should have him on the show. Yeah. Tarika, yeah? Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and the previous meet, you were on the back of the Saab, the convertible.
That's right.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Good footage. I'm yet to see more of it, but those were the golden days. They still are.
Yeah.
So WA Day happened, and it was this car meet. Got around 300, 400 people going. And I was like, whoa, this was the first time I'd hit like such caliber numbers. I'd shared it across a bunch of Facebook groups. It's an awesome way to market. And then I was like, yay, this is fun. I had a lot of people come around, but I didn't really see too much content. The most content was produced by me. So after that, maybe the next day after that meet, I just see this bloke post. And Tim, like, honestly, you did that car meet more justice. You made the car meet look better in the photos than it was in real life.
Oh, thank you very much.
100%. You got the McLaren.
The one thing I always say is that the camera can only capture what it sees. Is that as much as it can be a case of like it looks better than it is, or like, you know, my car doesn't look that good. You make it look so good. I'm like, the camera is literally just a lens like that takes in what it sees. Yep. So at least in some form of what you see in there, if you see it as a good photo, part of that is because of the subject or what's being taken.
Some aspect of what I really like about your work, Tim, is that firstly, your name is Real Human Photography. When I started noticing the car meets in Perth, I just started seeing cars. Cars are cool. Cars are awesome. Yeah. But if you don't have people in them, and this is something that I started telling Martin, like even with the videos, I want the cars, but I want people in them. Yeah. Because if people just see cars, it's like every other Facebook meet.
That was kind of, funnily enough, a happy accident on my part. Yeah. Because before Real Human Photos, my kind of nickname amongst my group of friends was Real Human Tim.
Okay.
So like I was using that as like my online tag and things like that.
Why? So your second account is actually like your first account.
So my second account, Real Human Tim, was my first account, and Real Human Photos came next.
Yeah. And
that goes back probably till 2015 because we were house sitting for a friend, a family friend. And we'd kind of it was the first time like coming out of high school and stuff like that. We'd really had like a share house type scenario. So we were just all having a ball. And it was like 4 o'clock in the morning or something. And I've woken up and I can just hear this like kind of this thubbing like bass line that's coming in from the living room. And I'm walking out and it's my friend like kind of like half asleep on the couch. And he's just finished watching Drive with that like Ryan, is it Ryan Gosling?
Oh, good movie.
Yeah. He
Awesome
finished watching that. And the song that plays is Real Hero. And the song is like, Real Human Being.
I know that song.
That is it. And throughout that kind of thing, someone just turned and looked at me and went, Real Human Tim. And like the eyes lit up in his eyes like, that's a good name. And of course, you never make your own nicknames. It's always like someone else's brilliant idea that sticks. And so, of course, like Real Human Tim just became like a kind of funny joke amongst us. And so that was kind of the joke at the moment. And then that became all of my online tags. And then I'm thinking like, well, I've started doing this photography thing. Like, what do I call it? I'm like, well, I call myself Real Human Tim. Like, I'm a real human. We'll just call it Real Human Photography.
Nice.
And so when you go back to my early stuff, it is literally just like a car me, which is just cars. So it is that pretty much. But as you slowly start to go through it, it kind of starts to go, well, like, so much in the creativity and what you said about WA Day and the cruise is like no one else was doing a cruise on WA Day. You start to look at what other people are doing because so many people were at the point where I was with a camera shooting car meets. It's something anyone can do and I encourage it. But there was looking at it and going, well, like what are people not doing? And there was sort of an enjoyment where like throughout every 30 to 40 photos you get in an album, you'd have like one shot where the people are like, they've seen you with a camera, like, take a photo of us, and they're like, yeah. And you're like, those tended to be like the best photos.
Or the most engaged with, liked, right?
Well, I don't know, because I wasn't engaging with it in that way.
I see.
So that's what I mean. Is it wasn't so much to me about an algorithm or something like that, because it was just something I was enjoying doing. I wanted to go to car meets. And I just so happened that I'd been going to like Cars and Coffee and stuff like that. So I'd started doing videos for Cars and Coffee. I was like just going along and taking videos, doing little edits, posting on YouTube. It was very much like you. I grew up in a YouTube space. So for me, it was like getting the cameras in like middle school and stuff like that, and just going like, this is awesome. I get to edit, make our own stuff. Like, this is just like YouTube and things like that.
Nice.
And then progressing and going, well, I like editing. I studied a bit of I've got like a diploma in media and communications through that kind of passion. And then eventually just kind of went like, well, if I just, instead of focused on like 24 frame per second video, what if I just took one frame? And to be honest, it was because like with the DSLR I was using, not too much advanced. I was kind of struggling a bit with video, and then just went, well, getting a single frame like exact correct is like an art in itself, and it was just to be honest a little easier. So I just kind of started doing that. And
it's also a bit of a compromise if you think about it, because it's not like video where you're editing a bunch of things. It's like, this is the one thing I have the chance to make like right or perfect. Right?
And you can kind of you get like like less than a second, and you've got that shot. Like, you can do 1 second and then that's it. Whereas like a video, you'd spend like 5 to 10 seconds per shot. You'd end up with, I mean, for me, the way I was shooting, my creativity wasn't at its full potential yet. So a lot of what I was doing was going to Cars and Coffee and doing the same kind of front left quarter panel shot of of a pan pass on the car, and doing that multiple times. But again, even through that, like picking those little moments of interaction, like seeing people sitting on their camp chairs in front of a car, like they're just enjoying the meet by sitting there. You kind of pick up on those little things. I think the kind of moments where I really started to clue into those kind of things is you start to get more of those human. You realize that I'm real human photography, and there's a real avenue to explore there, is that people looked at it and they reciprocated. They said like, not many people are doing what you're doing. And I think you mentioned Arise Racing in the start with Lawrence and the Lee collection, where you kind of didn't focus on the supercars. You went to everything surrounding it, which for you for that event was something that probably not many other people were doing, because I was shooting the supercars. one of my favorite things I loved doing was when he would get a new car. So we'd have like a Senna or something that rocks up to a car meet. Some of my favorite albums.
They're pretty cool the way.
Oh, like, fantastic! But you've got a Cars and Coffee where he's rocked up in a McLaren Senna, and of course, what everyone's doing is swarming the thing. And for a photographer, a car show can sometimes be their worst nightmare. But for me, I was like, I need to thrive in this environment. And I love this because I love the human interaction and stuff like that. So I got like maybe 3 or 4 shots of the car to kind of set the stage, and then ran a like zoom lens and just like pointed at the people that were standing around the car.
Nice.
And so you've got, here's the McLaren Senna, and here's a kid going like, wow. Here's like like an old like an elderly woman who's you wouldn't have picked someone to like be interested in this kind of thing. Just looking at it as like a non-car enthusiast and going, this is incredible. Like what is this? Like spaceship. And that's such an interesting way to see how people interact with the medium as well.
Catching raw emotion.
Exactly. It's like, and that is sometimes so much more dynamic when you can sometimes fall into a rut of being like, I'm a hack. I just take a picture of a car on a front quarter angle. Like, sometimes I look at my Instagram, especially with motorsport, and just be like, I'm just a guy who takes a photo of a car going left to right. Like, so in those moments, it's good to have that sort of background.
And when you look at it from like an art kind of perspective, right? When you take a photo of just a car, it's just, okay, it's a cool car. People who were at the event will remember, okay, it was a cool car. But when you take a photo of the interactions, right, they think back, it's like, oh, that was a wholesome moment. Like, me and all my mates is looking at this car just...
And there's power in both. There's so much power in both. It's like you can get some insanely talented people that can create one of the most like incredibly artistic images of a car.
And then that image alone is enough to give you that emotional response.
Exactly. It's the same kind of thing of being that person that looks at it and goes like, this is an absolutely incredible looking car. It's the stuff that, you put on your wall. It's like a poster and things like that. But that's the other thing as well, is that people, as much as the cars tend to be the extension of the people. And when you're starting to get yourself out there as a creator, you start to recognize as well that, you know, people like sharing their stuff. They like sharing their cars, but then it's like they're extremely happy when they see a picture of themselves. Because again, at that point, not many people were doing it. I've been in an incredibly fortunate position where people have they've been to a car meet and taken a picture of people, and someone goes like, I'm taking the real human style, and I'm like,
nice.
I don't own
branding.
Yeah, like, I don't own taking pictures of people. Like it's not something I'll ever claim to own or stuff like that. But to be in, especially just like Perth and unique to here, to have that happen and someone go like, that's a real human style, was kind of an interesting moment. Just be like, yeah, like just by taking the picture of people, and people have recognized it as something that's kind of my thing, and it's been great. It's a lot of connections to make from that too.
There's a good amount of luck in just having your name be real human photos as well, hey? Just tie into the brand.
Well, that was it. Is like it was kind of that moment when all of my bios changed, and it was like, the real human with the real human element. Like that was kind of my marketing jargon and PR background and all that kind of stuff coming in, where I was like, all right, well, now that I've started to establish myself taking pictures of people and getting the background of that, like how do you develop that kind of became the unique thing behind it. And so it works in two ways, because obviously you'd look at my Instagram and it's a lot of cars now, because cars are kind of what makes it happen. But events and stuff like that are fantastic for that kind of thing, because you usually lead with your cars, and then you open it up to an album full of all the event and the kind of environment that's there. Yeah. So it's good to have a bit of both, but it works in the way that I'm the real human, so it's real human photos because I'm the real human, but it's also real human photos because it ends up being pictures of the real people behind it and all that stuff.
Something an old sales mentor of mine taught me when I was working in the call center jobs, selling Telstra products and all sorts of things. Was usually when you pick up a phone call or when you call someone, because it's a repetitive job, you're usually doing the same thing. Hello, my name is Ken, I'm representing XYZ company, blah, 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 blah. He said, sometimes you just got to be a bit silly when you pick up the phone call.
Oh, 100%.
So you got to be like, hello, how's it going? Or what's cooking? What's the dinner? They're saying.
I love thinking of like customer service as like theatre.
It is a bit.
I think
one-on-one theatre.
Exactly. It's like so much of it is a performance.
Yeah.
When you're working in a call centre, you're reading from a script.
Yeah. Well, like, sometimes depending on what type of salesperson you are.
Yeah, exactly.
But something that this guy told me was you got to have the humanising element of things, and that's something I've tried to incorporate with everything. With Uncle Ken's, I try to. It is a guy standing outside of outside environment with a car. The humanizing element is literally the embodiment of myself, not to bring it all around my ego, but I am saying that a lot of the times when people see cool cars and have the human element, yes, they do get that engagement. I grew up with a few random house parties, and the photography was like the best part of the party, like afterwards, because you'd have that event, everyone would be ranting and raving about it. The second the photos get shared with the party, we're all like, yeah, this is me with my boys, or like
it's a
gang.
Second wind, pretty much. It's like you get to experience it again in like a new way.
Cherish the memories.
Exactly. And that's where you can kind of like, I do think of the image that you used for Uncle Ken's for a while, which might still be the case of that like wide shot of just everyone like surrounding you.
You're right if I still use that?
I'm fine with it.
Like, I still have the real human in the bottom corner.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just like such an interesting photo to show like off the scale and stuff like that, but it's just like those are the kind of things where it's like when you're there, that's what it feels like, and up to be able to go to that moment and get a capture of what it felt like is if you can at least leave with something like that, like taking a picture of a car and capturing the feeling of what it was like to see it. For motorsport photography, I'm so much of like, because I used to drive, when you're behind the wheel of the car, you feel like no matter whether or not you're doing 50 kilometers an hour or like 150, you feel like you're doing 250. It's like you're behind the wheel, you're absolutely gunning it. And for me, I was in an MX-5 and an 86, so I probably wasn't going too quick. But when you get behind the camera, you go like, how can I evoke that feeling of going like absolute like Mach speeds? And so to go into it and go with that emotion behind it really resonates with a lot of the people who've come along and started to support me. Is because of the way where it's like not just the static shot of the car again, it's bringing some sort of emotion out of it and going, I felt like I was going warp speed, and the photo should reflect that.
Yeah. If I could bring it back to sales for a minute, I'd like to highlight Mr. Martin here, because he works for a pretty cool company, or if not represents. Are you allowed to talk about it on there?
Yeah,
in some fashion. Right? Yeah. What company do you work for at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm managing at the DJI store in Carousel, right?
Nice. Plug.
Yeah, my bloody bros going.
No incentives, unfortunately, not yet.
Yeah. So yeah, like if you're not aware of it already, like that's like the branding of drones, right? We're basically the Apple store of the drone world.
Nice. Do you want to just show the audience just what type of drone you have in your backpack? Just take it off and pull it out.
Pulling out the prop.
Surely, pull out the prop. But while you go into that, something I was having a chat with. Show the camera.
Get the drone, Martin.
Yeah, please. Something that we were discussing, and you were talking about customer service as well, is Martin's role is not necessarily a sales-driven role. It's more of a customer service role where it's entirely based off product knowledge and knowing your product, right?
Well, it's like the more Martin I see of Martin, because Martin and I haven't like hung out too much. Like you because you were at the Valeside shoot, which I think we kind of. We
didn't actually rock up to that one.
Didn't you?
Didn't.
Oh no! Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that just shows the testament of your character.
Let me show the
audience. You've etched yourself into my mind into a way that you didn't exist then. But no, because it would have been then Love, the shoot we did with the AMG. Was that the first?
So
time
that one,
met?
that would have been it.
Wow.
So that was the first time we properly met.
Okay, yeah. Because then we did that meet there, and you'll see the lovely goggles that Ken is demonstrating right now.
Wonderful.
Well, because
controller.
What drone is this one that Ken's showing off now?
So I feel I'm doing free promo here, but like this is the new DJI Avatar, right? It's cool little Cinewhoop style drone. You fly with goggles. You see first person view of what the drone sees, and then you can fly over indoors and all that, and have some crazy cool shots. Do some
no, it's not free promo. Honestly, it's cool gadgets, and this is what I like to talk about too. Drones, right? It's not accessible to everyone because of price point, but you can start quite affordable.
Yeah, relatively. Just relatively. Still a couple hundred. It's still a little like
still a bit expensive.
basically.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like I am with you in wanting to tinker with so many things. Music for me is very similar. I love tinkering around with music, whether or not it's like a guitar, drums. I would love to own like a modular synth, but I just know that unlike photography, I would not have any knowledge on how to make anything with it. And that is like kind of a weird thing. Is like a time investment where you're not getting a product out of it, and it's difficult to think of it like that. Where it's just like I just want to do it because I like it and it's fun. But you know, just to have something sit there, especially when it could be like about $500 to $600 to do so, it's like just something go beep 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 beep.
Yeah, it reminds me like I have a guitar in the corner of my room that I like like twice a year I pick up for a whole week. I get like an eighth of the way through a song, and then don't touch my guitar for the rest of the year.
But that whole week is
can relate.
Awesome.
That was something I had to recognize when I started investing in camera gear, is because I'd been shooting on I had a 700D with 2 kit lenses, which I used for 5 years and didn't spend any money on any accessories and stuff like that. Over that 5 years, I probably had hobbies which I'd spent money on which lasted a week or lasted a month or something that was completely bliss for about like a month or 2 months of me doing it, and then, you know, doesn't have the same staying power. And you do that multiple times, and you could be investing anywhere from like $500 to $1,000 on each hobby when you get involved, get invested, like, start spending the money on it, and then you think about it. The one thing I've been doing constantly this entire time that's outlasted everything, and I haven't spent any money on it. You know, like maybe it's time to reward that hobby that you've been like doing for so long.
Photography, that is.
Yeah, that's the one.
And that's what I respect about you so much, because I actually think, this is my opinion, I'm just putting it on the table. I don't think you should venture, I'm not saying that you shouldn't venture into reels, but I don't think you should venture so much into video, because you're basically specializing in photography at this point. I'm not saying you shouldn't try it
No,
or go straight into it.
That's such a difficult thing. Is I do love video editing. I love video editing, and that's where it's like with Reels coming through. It's like, oh my god, I got an opportunity to start doing something I used to love.
Yep.
And so I'm starting to do it. But when I pick up my camera, especially if I'm going to use it for video or something, and I set up a shot, and I just go, this would make a great photo.
Yeah.
I turn it back from the video and straight into the photo thing, and I go, wait a minute. So that's where so much of it has been like kind of getting the accessories surrounding it to use the photography as a content tool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not a big nerd on like all these settings. Like, I'm not saying nerd, but like, yes, but definitely I am saying nerd. But I don't go too deep in granularity about like settings and aperture, focus, lighting, all sorts of things like this. I probably covered a small portion of it, but you guys, do you want to like enlighten the audience or like people who might be interested in starting out like photography or videography, like just the base level fundamentals?
To be honest, like I shot on an old Nikon crop sensor DSLR for like sort of 2-3 years there, right? And the solid first 2 years, I had my camera on like auto mode, but like the auto no flash mode.
Okay.
And I got like some great results, man.
Yeah.
Like,
nice.
I can say the same. The thing I would say to someone who is starting out is that the best thing that you can possibly do is use the gear that you have.
Yeah.
If you're out there and absorbing, like just doing the hobby that you love, naturally you're going to pick up on the things that will make you better at it. You'll look at a set of photos and go like, that was a really good photo. What did I do there that I can do next time?
Yeah. Not just point and shoot.
The thing is like even to point and shoot, you have to you end up getting an idea of framing.
Yep.
Is that you don't need to go into it with any fundamentals, because such an interesting thing with photography and videography is that somehow we're just wired to find things like better than other things. Rule of thirds. It's like why does it look better? Why does it look better to have an image like a character, like a subject, like slightly off center? It's just something that's like wired with our brain, which is like that kind of looks better.
It just feels more like balance. Like you put it there and it feels calm.
And that's it. It's like you'll start out shooting and you might put the image in the center, but then one day you take a picture of it off to the side and you go, that just looks better.
What's the deal with I don't know if it's Sierpinski, you know, like the golden ratio?
Yeah, golden ratio.
Do you guys use that at all, golden ratio?
What is interesting is that I only recently found out that you could change the crop lines on like a Lightroom, and one of them is the golden ratio.
Oh, what about on your camera?
Not on the camera. I think
too much of a
some
guide.
offer it, but not many.
Not too popular yet. Not a standard convention.
Yeah, because one of the things you do is like in essence, there is a beauty to a point and shoot nature of a camera.
Yep.
I echo Martin's sentiments. Was that my 700D? I never really shot on manual mode because a lot of cameras now are very smart, and
not even now, just like a decade ago.
They're really smart. And one of the things is that when you're looking through a DSLR viewfinder, you can't actually see what the image is going to look like.
Can you mute my audio?
Oh, yeah. So one of the things like when there's suddenly lack of like ambience. So one of the things is when you're looking through a standard viewfinder on a DSLR, you are getting a true reflection of what the lens sees, not what the final image is going to be. So it's very difficult to nail your settings, especially in a fast-paced environment. And for what I was doing, which was taking pictures of people, a moment can last 5 seconds. And you can't really take a picture of like someone laughing and like in the moment. You can't take that picture and like look down and go, oh, I got the adjustment off. Let me just tone down. Oh, they've gone. Like you can't do that. So much of it is realizing that do whatever you can
in the now
to take the photo. Is older cameras will have ISO settings that will just like fuzz up the quality. You and I now would be like, we don't want any fuzz on our photos and things like that.
It adds character, man.
It adds character. But the thing is like getting to a stage of realizing is like, would you rather have that moment fuzzy, or would you not have it at all?
I see.
Yeah.
So when you start to do it, if you end up with a little bit of creative vision, if you start to do it, you start to work with your tools, you get better at that, and then you start thinking like, what do I like to do? What can I bring to it?
Yeah.
And then you marry that up with what you've been doing for all that time.
What's everyone's opinion on digital grain?
It's great.
Yeah, I like it. Like,
Yeah.
it's good.
Digital grain, like it's so much of an artistic style as well. I mean, you can ask. The great thing with art is that you can ask like different people, and then you get different responses.
True.
It's not a competition.
Yeah.
I think so many people are very quick in any field to say like you're cheating, like if you're not using manual mode on your camera, like you're not a true photographer.
If you're not developing your photos in the darkroom.
Yeah, exactly. Like at what point do you stop? It's just like, well, you're already using a DSLR that uses a digital medium that you're going to edit. Like if it's cheating to use an automatic mode, don't edit your RAWs. Like that's cheating. Like again, you can put it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So long as you are enjoying the craft and you can get something out of it.
Yeah, we got a solid 30 minutes as well, so we can extend this.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sweet.
No harm at all.
Or
And I like where this
minutes.
is going. 15 minutes, yeah. I mean, like 30 minutes for the setup. Like, I'm pretty happy with the way it's gone.
Well, to be honest, we had the 30 minutes of the setup and then we hit record and that's been 50 minutes.
Oh,
So that's been doing
It's
well.
been pretty good.
But that can be the thing is I love getting in with other creators who just have that. You have so much knowledge and experience through all that kind of stuff. Like you have so much background with organizing events and all that kind of stuff and bringing people together.
A little bit of
collaboration.
UGC. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like, and then we can all kind of bring a little bit of something different to the table and create something good with it.
Yeah.
I like when we were able to collaborate with Love Studio on that AMG because like what I discovered now, that was the first time I'd actually met you.
Oh, real?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And so being able to collaborate, and even then you were tinkering. I think I'm saying like we're losing the light, and you're setting up microphones and stuff to get the like audio quality right. And I'm like, this is insane. Like it's getting to production levels that I was expecting to rock up, and you got the gimbals to shoot and doing all that stuff. And there's good gear there.
What's up with that guy? Creative Edits. Do you guys know him? Have you met him in person?
I've not met him yet, but I think he's definitely come up quick in the scene because I've not seen him before.
Work. And seems very well crafted, as skilled just with that specific stuff. You know, like what I'm talking about.
100%. Yeah, he's got all those like transitions and stuff back then.
After Effects king, right? yeah.
And because like so many people have access to it, like you can just be curating your craft like quietly and
I know, right?
doing it because you love it, and then suddenly one day it's like you right up on the scene, like you just suddenly show up and
just pop up.
Because like probably a year and a half ago was when I only started Instagram. Like so Facebook was my main thing for a long time because that was just where I would put up everything.
Were you doing it on Facebook much longer?
I was probably on Facebook for about 4.5 years before I ended up with an Instagram or something like that.
Oh wait, so you didn't even start Facebook that like early? I started it when I was like probably
14. So I had my Real Human Photos Facebook was like 4 or something.
Your Facebook page.
But but on Facebook I probably from like 13 like onwards. That's all right. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then using Facebook and doing like that, posting through there.
What about yourself, Martin? Because it looks like you've been in the game for a little bit.
Yeah.
If not long.
Like I still haven't figured out Facebook. I feel like that's maybe not my generation thing.
Yep.
But
Instagram.
See, this actually worries me because you said iPads in like primary school.
Yeah.
And I how old are you?
From 18.
18.
I'm
You're
18.
18?
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm 19 in like a month, but
No way.
that's still not a month, man.
Nice, man. Yeah.
I'm 25.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So like it's such an interesting thing where it's like it's again I think of a fun activity that you can try is if you go to YouTube and you type in like English class and sort by new, and you end up finding like just some random school and they've posted their like English class like media project.
Okay.
And it is very interesting to draw parallels from what I was making in middle school to what people are still making in that kind of like age range, because it's better because they have better gear and all that kind of stuff. But the funniest thing is that the blooper reel is still the star of the show.
The blooper reel.
Always.
If you were doing a project or a media project for like class, you were doing it for the blooper reel. So it was every attempt of like, you know, you're fulfilling a quota, basically
like
doing
cutscenes.
Yeah, exactly. If you're doing a rendition of Romeo and Juliet for like an English class and you have to perform it, you know, you're doing that to fulfill the quota.
Yeah.
You get the most fun out of going back and saying, you stuffed up there, I'm going to put this into a fun little edit. And
Stacks.
exactly. So you'd end up with one video, which is the legit thing you'd submit, and then you'd end up with the credits and then the blooper reel, and you just like, and it's aged so poorly.
That's it.
But it's so funny to go and see that stuff like still exists, and it's fantastic.
I was talking to my boss about like, you know, like America's Funniest Home Videos, or basically memes, right?
Yeah.
The concept of memes, I reckon, like, hasn't really changed. It's just changed a medium. Like, for example, like now reels are incorporating, well, TikTok, like Vines, right? They've just been like these basic memes. I sound like such an oldie talking about it in such a nature. But like,
Martin's sitting here going,
he's probably got some like
I remember some of those videos,
hardcore stuff. Yeah. Oh, they're still around. They're just in the dark confines of the internet, I guess, in some places. So
it's that dark, shadowy place. We'll never go there.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like as a kid I did watch like on TV that like Australia's Funniest Home Videos, right? Now we get that same content just on Instagram.
Yeah.
If you think about it, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same like funny fails and whatnot.
And again, the stuff is moving away because, you know, we get so much quality content out of like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Whereas like you've got all of those taking the empowering independent creators is that you don't need a massive budget now because people are getting so creative. The gear is getting so good for such a cheaper margin. The stuff you can pick up now is like top tier equipment and you don't need to spend that much. The camera that I was shooting on and ending up getting some really good images now, I've sold that on for like a really cheap price to someone else who's going to end up like using that, getting some good stuff from it and like develop, and then eventually maybe if they continue with it, they'll get the new gear and go from there. It's fantastic.
Adding on to that, like for anyone who's trying to start out in this industry, like getting used gear is actually a pretty good idea.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Even used car parts.
Yeah,
just putting it out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, marketplace and stuff like that is good because, you know, if you can put aside, I can't even think of the word, like your idea of having something new and shiny. Whereas, like, you can usually pick up stuff like pretty cheap, and especially for as a Canon user, I've moved over onto the mirrorless side of things, which uses a very specific mount. But you can get an adapter that basically uses. You can now connect all the old lenses to it.
Yeah.
And that means that you've got the entire like last 10 to 20 years of like lenses that are usually on marketplace.
Wow.
And usually a lot cheaper than you'd get for what the new mounted stuff is, and generally about the same.
I'm so bad. I always want new stuff. It's, there's something wrong with it.
I was chatting to Martin because you mentioned those DJI like lapel mics.
Yep.
And probably 2 weeks prior, I had literally gone to Google and said wireless lapel mics. And I kind of just was at a passing thought, like thinking, is there anything like this? Because I kind of have some ideas. And then just out of the blue, you messaged another chat and said like, have you guys seen these wireless lapel mics? And I was like, that is everything that I just went on a whim wanted to look for, and ended up getting them off yourself as well. Nice. And I completely lost where that train of thought was going. I was all wrapped up in like the mics were fantastic.
So what's the market with those? There's DJI ones, and then there's the Rode ones, right?
Yep.
Lapel, is that just like string, or is that, what does that mean? It's just a small mic?
Lapel mic is usually something that if you think of like a little butt on your collar, like your lapel. So it's a microphone that you keep on your person.
Oh, wow.
And is usually used for like presentation. Or
is that part of fabric, is it?
So you think of your lapel as kind of like a bit of your collar, or like a little bit below your collar.
Yeah.
And what would happen is you'd put a microphone on your lapel, and because that's kind of directly where your mouth
lapel
is.
Mic.
Exactly, lapel microphone. So when a camera is far away, like we've got over there, rather than having this expensive kind of setup here, which in most cases you don't want to be lugging that around, you kind of condense this down to a little bud that goes on your lapel. Most microphones, up until what I saw you have, would run the wire down back to like a receiver box.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Or it would plug into like your phone or something.
So like YouTube prank videos.
Oh, so yeah, think of it like that. Is it? And then I think I've seen like almost as if you use your phone and when you do your videos with the drones.
Yeah.
It's basically just a way of taking the phone out of your hand and putting a microphone right here, so you have full expression and you're not like seen holding something.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting and useful tool to help with kind of audio quality with that kind of thing.
First person that let me use one was Lucid, 86 Date.
Cool.
Good bloke, eh? Like, honestly, the quietest guy I know, but like his work speaks for itself. As far as like car stuff, that guy's raking it on YouTube actually.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that about Perth is that one thing with the automotive scene in Perth is that there's usually always something new to see, and there's so many creators, and there's so many good creators as well.
Yeah,
and even the people that are starting out or getting creative, they've got so much of a willingness and eagerness to get into it, and they're like sponges. They will just like take it all in.
Yeah.
It's fantastic to see because someone who comes in and thinks that they're the top stuff, or like they're just like, no, I've picked up a camera, I'm going to be the best at this. But a lot of people are willing to take it on board. They're looking at what other people are doing and learning from that too. One of the most powerful tools is being able to look at someone else's work and figure out what they're doing and try and incorporate that yourself. I've been to some events where I look at a photo that's been taken from like a rally or something, and I go like, after that shot, I'm going to throw out my SD card. There's no other photos that are needed at this event. Like, this is the shot of the event. But then you look at it and you're like, well, I'm still here for another day. Like, what can I do to evoke that same feeling so that I can keep my SD card at the end of it? I don't need to throw it away. And then you use that as kind of inspiration to make something better.
Just a question for Martin. With the microphones, like the lapel mics, like the Rode ones, and then they have the DJI ones, which look like a really nicely crafted product, like an Apple AirPods or something like that.
Yeah, it's cool because it's coming in like an AirPod style case, so you can keep it all charged.
Where do you think that DJI product slides on the market compared to Rode and other things? We're using Rode mics right now.
So it targets the same people that are looking into these like little easy Rode wireless Go's, like they're called, right?
Yeah, price?
Where price they're a touch more expensive at the moment, just because things like the form factor with the case and all of that, right? But this replaces that traditional solution of having the lapel wired down to the pack on your belt, right?
Yeah.
Which is a lot more cumbersome than this.
Is it square like the Rodes, or?
It's a little more rectangular, but smaller. So
I think with the way that DJI puts itself in the sort of drone market as well, I think of the way that you use drones, where you use it as a presentation tool.
Yeah.
So you use it as like a mobile high camera. So you're usually circling you at an event. You are able to kind of marry that with a small microphone that can record you using the drone.
I've just been milking that feature on the drone. I think I've only used it at this point.
But that's it. Is it's essentially going to like if you use a drone or you're an owner of a drone and you start making content in that way, the way it can slot into DJI's kind of space is like, well, if you're starting to record yourself with your drone, the drone's a couple of meters like away in the sky. Like, how are you going to record your audio?
Yeah.
If only we had a lapel microphone.
Oh my gosh, maybe the perfect target market. Actually, that's someone I've been going to for anything tech related. I just trust this guy with 100% confidence, because I know you probably put the amount of time you put into learning the skills of all these tools and knowing how to use them. I would assume that you have some decent understanding of where the market's at with these products. I hope, I pray.
I understand. So like, just come back on your question before, like all these like miniaturized products now are just being built for these like up and coming like content creators that like that's what we're calling like us basically.
Yeah.
Because like we aren't like a whole production company. We aren't like a film studio, right?
Yeah.
But we wanted to get to that level. It's just we need to do a lot quicker, a lot faster, and a lot smaller.
Well, that's it. Is like it used to be like up until that point, if you wanted like good audio, you'd end up getting the money to buy like actual professional equipment.
Well, you need a sound guy at that point, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like you need to think of it. It's like, because most people film and they use their camera mic, and they go like, okay, so now we've got the camera mic. I've definitely fallen in one of the useful tools was like using the phone as kind of a as a microphone, like slipping that into a like breast pocket and just like kind of having it sit there. And I did like vehicle reviews at one point where I was like walking around my mum's Jag and being like, here's all the features of this car.
And speaking to the phone.
Just having it in my pocket.
Nice.
So it was way because I'm not a naturally expressive person. So I don't like having the phone and things visible and things like that. But to get to that thought process, you're still using your phone, you're marrying it up. And once you start to think about that, you're giving creators more tools to create more professional, creations.
Definitely. I was just having an anxiety attack at the camera just in case the recording stopped.
That's like it stopped 20 minutes ago.
Oh, that's what happened last time. I mean, we're doing fun and time. But,
no.
Yeah, it was quite annoying last time. I had the A64, A6000.
Yeah.
And it stopped at 23 minutes throughout the podcast. And I was like, I apologize, this will never happen again. I just had in a statement, I had my logo there.
You need some like good B-roll or something like that. Or you can just use like one image and make it like not change at all. And it was just like, no one will notice.
I was thinking if I have more car guys on the show, maybe like I do like a little sub.
Speaking of which.
Way!
All right. Okay, let's pause it. Or keep it
leave
running.
the audio running, so that sync is easy.
Then I can sync it up.
What we're going to do is we're going to run a live commentary on the replacement of the setup of the camera. So what Ken's going to do is he's going to take off his headphones. He's going to walk over to the camera to investigate.
SD card?
Yes, it's your SD card.
Jesus,
all right, so Ken's made his way over to the bag. He's got a Woolworths paper bag. He's getting something out. There's something in there. Is he getting another SD card? No, he's walking back to the desk to grab his hat. No, what's under the hat?
Oh.
That's
really good timing.
It's another. It's like SD cards, some electrical gadgets. He keeps that on him at all times. He's opening up an SD card holder, and he's pulling out another SD card.
Wow, he's got a whole kit.
Can you tell us about that, Martin? What do you see?
As you cannot see over here, there's a little like pencil case looking thing, unfolds. There's a little SD card case. It's soft white plastic with 4 slots for large SD cards and 5 smaller slots for micro SD cards.
All right, I'll actually ask you a serious question, Martin. Now we're going to get to technical creative talk.
Yes.
What is your kit? What is your current camera kit?
Oh my god, where do I start?
If you were to bring a bag to a shoot, and
one bag.
You have one bag, and let's your videographer.
Yeah,
you've been told I need you here to film a video. I'm not telling you what it is. What do you pack in the bag?
Man, that's scary.
That's scary. That's the reality.
Brief,
what's your go-to kit? Like, what camera are you running at the moment?
So oddly, in the video world, I'm running a Nikon Z6 mirrorless camera, which Nikon has not been historically very good for video, but this guy has some quirks, but the image out of it is beautiful.
Is that because you're a previous Nikon user? Because I find that a lot of people that stick to their brands are because they picked up their first camera was a Nikon, and then that's just what they stuck with.
100%, that was a big part of it, coming from a DSLR from Nikon as well. But also, the specs looked really good when it was announced, but it has been a little dated ever since.
When was that Nikon? When did that come out?
2018. So
it was around about the start that most of the mirrorless stuff was kind of making a splash.
Yeah, but still 3 years after Sony was in the game.
So we've got a Nikon in the bag, a Nikon mirrorless. What have you got? What are you bringing lens-wise?
Lens-wise, it was that brief and just one bag. I'm just going with 24-70 f2.8. That gets the job done most of the time.
24-70 f8. Yeah. Oh yeah, so just a f2.8. Yeah, just a good lens. A good kind of versatile lens as well. Do you have much else that you'd bring for specific shoots?
Well, yeah, I'll take the mic solution. The DJI mics, they're handy for micing people, micing cars.
So you got the audio stuff sorted.
Yeah. So those are the 2 essentials. If it's possibly something car related, I'll take a gimbal. Just get some nice movement in there. Little movement always adds such a shot, right? And then I also recently got a light finally. It's a little aperture of 60 watt little light.
Yeah.
And then that thing can just do wonders.
Yeah.
Some shoots, hey.
Now, do you put much planning with an idea of what you'd want to leave a shoot with, or is that kind of you would arrive and work that out once you get there?
It really depends on the shoots, right? Sometimes there's just event coverage, right, where you don't really know what to expect. You kind of try to organize and just get a rough idea what's going on, maybe the timetable of events, but you really just can't tell those type of things. The kind of things you want to shoot are, the little interactions and the little moments of people just having fun, right? Yeah. And then that is just point a camera, just get things as they come.
Yeah.
But then there's shoots like commercials and corporate sort of things where, half the shoot is the planning, and then like in terms of each shot takes like an hour to set up and light and all that.
Yeah.
For like a 5-second shot.
Yeah. Now, once you finish the shoot, the days it's a wrap, and you get back home. What's your creative process like from there? So as you've got your bag set back down on the bed. Yep. What do you do?
Well, just in case, I just take all the footage off of my cards, just make sure that's all backed up because, stuff happens in that situation.
Yeah.
And then, depending how much energy I have, I might take a nap.
An important part of the creative process.
Of course, get the brain revitalized.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I was studying at the moment, right?
Yeah. So if you
studying and working
at the moment,
well, yeah.
Yeah, between work, uni, and creative stuff, it's not enough hours in a day, eh?
Yeah, there never is like really.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, and I think for what we do, like we all want to make what we do in our lives very commercially viable. We want to be able to sustain this to the point where it can be part of our lifestyle. We're not.
Yeah, I still think of my creative work as a passion first and foremost. I've pushed and dabbled in that space at the moment of it being like business and making money and stuff like it.
Not easy.
And yeah, it's kind of becoming a little bit of a necessity now because there's kind of two ways I'm thinking of it is that my growth just in gear alone, the amount of money that I've spent to get to a quality 100%. Of where I'm at, where it's like that in turn is just inherent value that people get from it. So the difference that you get from me compared to someone else that starts out in a motorsport event is just going to be gear.
Yeah.
So you've already got that much value in that.
Yeah.
And there was another point that I was going to make, and I've completely lost it.
Was it on the same path that I was going, or was it completely different?
Oh yeah, I've completely.
That's all right.
Because like thinking about like the value that you have as a photographer and stuff like that there too.
I think if we have to think about what we're doing right now, and we're thinking about the longevity of it, we have put like considerable amount of finances into it. Personal investment, family, friends, whatever. But when I look at things like from a perspective of 5 to 10 years forward, I'd love to keep doing what I'm doing, maybe in a bit more leveled up perspective. And I'd love to see you boys doing that. So the reason I talk money, right? Business is a very taboo thing, especially when money's on the table. But when I say commercially viable, I think it's only right that for the amount of investment that you've put in, you get some type of return on it. And something that I'd like to pitch, I guess, as an idea is maybe in the future if people come through me, right? Because I get people with really cool cars, right? If people come to me with really cool cars and maybe they want a photo shoot, and this is kind of where the media team and stuff, I've kind of been thinking about because I didn't even realize it was more of a chaotic explosion.
That's creativity. All creativity is like a sudden explosion, and then that happens in the socials as well.
I'd love to have you guys, you as my photo guy, you as my video guy, just like if I had someone reach out to me for a job, I would do it through you guys. Oh, 100%.
That sounds
and
fun.
one of the interesting things that's happened is that I'm kind of in an interesting spot where like I've not advertised that I do private shoots, but I do private shoots. Like I have
awesome.
Like people have asked me and said, do you want to do this? So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so you get to curate a little bit because I'm kind of still not at that point where I could kind of sustain it as a whole thing, just because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
But it's happened more and more now where it's just so someone has reciprocated, like seen my work and really like gotten along with it. So I'd love to use your style for this. Yeah. I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah. I guess if I package like an offer up to some people, right? Maybe photography, videography included, like I packaged it up. You guys had full transparency with the financials. You saw the cut. You saw exactly what you get. And you're 100% on the deliverables. and you think you could do it and it's not too much a waste of your time, maybe more value to your time, would you guys be open to that?
I think it's going to depend on.
I have to work with this guy.
Well, it depends if you want to work together. I could have you separate. It's up to you.
It's a rival company type thing where it's like two heads of a company just going against each other.
No, it's just you, Tim.
No, this is what happens. Is we do the inverse. I start to try and do videography to step on your toes, but then you do photography to try and step on mine, and we just completely swap.
So how would you guys
you reckon
see that
there's a challenge, eh?
It would be a camera swap for a day. You try and do photography, and I'll try and do video.
How would that work with someone like you, Tim?
With me doing video, I mentioned
not video. Just say give a package service.
Oh yeah. I think the way that I would tend to think about it is like at the moment I do a lot to curate my own clientele.
Yes.
And so I know that I can go out and get a certain clientele that I would like. And to be honest, there wouldn't be really much stopping me from going to approach the same people as an independent and see if that's something that they're up for.
Absolutely.
So it would have to be in terms of a partnership sense. You'd have to kind of be bringing something that is really beneficial to like both parties in a way.
What if it was outside of the car scene?
Well, it's difficult because right now where I situate is I've got my own sort of personal goals within like motorsport and sort of automotive and things like that.
Motorsport Australia, right? You've got a bid and stuff like that.
I've got my accreditation through Motorsport Australia. A personal goal of mine is to end up, I think my next kind of personal goal is to end up traveling interstate with accreditation for a national event.
F1?
That's the kind of thing where you have to set realistic goals. Okay. It's because I feel like F1 is a goal for next year, but F1 is a goal as a spectator. Yeah. Because you can get to F1 as a spectator. That's a realistic goal.
Are you allowed to bring like a proper camera into like an F1?
Yeah. So one of the interesting things is that if you are accredited media for F1, you are not allowed to take video.
Really?
If you are a photographer, unless you are a accredited videographer for working for like the company there, you are not allowed to take independent video.
Wow. Okay.
So one of the things I've seen is the unique perspective as a spectator is that you're not abiding by that laws. So a lot of videographers go to F1 things and they go, I'm going to do video.
Martin?
So let's go to Melbourne next year.
The other thing is like people have said to me, they've said like, oh man, I wish I could just get into your position so that I could take the angles that you shoot. And they say that on a photo I shot behind the spectator lines. So it's like we're quite fortunate here because Wanneroo is a very open track. Like the fencing isn't too barricaded, and most of the time you can get away with like a very low f-stop type lens or a zoom lens that can just see right through the fencing.
So for you, it's in cars and motorsport. That's kind of like
that's the kind of thing. Is I'm testing and dabbling in the waters with other things. I obviously just like being behind a camera and editing,
and humans
as well. So doing more events and stuff like that. That's partly where a little bit more of the investment has come into a wider angle lens because up until this point, all of mine have been like narrow zoom focused lens for that kind of motorsport stuff.
What about yourself, Martin? You don't just dabble in cars, right? You do stuff outside of that. I see you've got a few products.
Like cars are kind of just like my downtime at this point, really. It's fun. Just I love to look at them, Like,
I see. Because I don't even think it's like I wouldn't say it's like 50% of your portfolio. I don't know.
It's like 100% of like my Instagram portfolio, but that's just for fun, yeah. But like
you're giving me like digital creator or media agency vibes. That's all. With what you're doing, I see you usually have like a crew or someone around you, right?
Yeah. So like I've been working on like a couple guys doing like corporate and commercial kind of video, and then just that's kind of like where the money is, and just being on like those kind of sets and just like doing the lighting and tinkering with that is good fun. As like Tim pointed out before, I'm always just like tinkering with things.
How do you like businesses, right? Because businesses will want media for starts, but having media is cool. You've just bought a painting, but how does that painting say get you more customers, or how do you sell that to them, or are they just looking for the media?
See, some people are just looking for media, but like that isn't the way you should do things.
Because it's not helping the success path, right?
Like film, video and like photos, they're just one media form in like an advertising world, right? Like in terms of marketing, advertising, you need like the basis, like you need to build your website, you need to build out your audience.
Maybe recurring content sometimes. Depends on the business.
That sort of thing. But even just like email communication, just Google Ads, that sort of thing. You need that basis first, but when you bring in like engaging photos and videos, which the primary purpose of them is usually just to draw attention to the company itself. But if you haven't built up like what your business is about, why you should come, what differentiates you with like a strategy, there isn't actually a real point to.
Would you have
just
any
jump straight to
examples,
video.
like of a business or like a brief client that you may be able to outline this explanation through? Like you were doing stuff for the rock climbing, right? That's something that really stood out to me. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how much I can't like exactly talk about specifically.
Oh yeah,
If that's the case, don't talk about it. I hate getting into like contractual stuff where it's just I don't know how much I can talk about. If I start
got paperwork. Oh dear. Yeah. I'm not trying to get into that, but something that I noticed was that you do have a commercial eye, and why I look at that as quite valuable is because at the same time, Tim has a very important aspect to what he's doing with photography, but you're looking at it from a video perspective, not just attention, maybe potential conversion or educating the client.
Yeah,
You can do the same through what you did with Targa, that shot with the kid and the Dodge Viper. Oh, mate, people love that. That went off, right?
That was a big one as well.
Did you see that, Martin? I'll tag you in it.
Yeah,
you can have a look at it. I'll see if I can put it up here as well.
Yeah. It's like, again, it's evoking like an emotion in a shot, which just kind of resonated with a lot of people. To describe it, it was basically at the city display. There was a young boy had walked past and was just like looking at the car, and it kind of evoked this sort of emotion of like someone who's like starting a passion or like would look at it.
And what did you caption it?
I was like, one day. It was like, mate,
that's all there was to it, right?
One day, and then it's just like him looking at the car and then thinking, like maybe one day that could be mine.
So what happened with that? That shot off quite a bit for a usual Facebook post or your usual Facebook post.
Yeah.
Right?
So because I'd been focusing on Instagram so much, I kind of really neglected Facebook in a way because posting every single day works really well for Instagram. I don't think it works quite so well for Facebook, because I tended to end up saying, look, if I'm posting to Facebook, I want to try and do if I'm sharing to a group, or if I'm doing larger albums, because when you post to Facebook, it's a shareable platform. So stuff with your Uncle Ken's mates is that went off because it included so many people, and so you shared it. You had people who were at the event sharing it, and they were taking photos. They kind of cross shared that onto Instagram and stuff like that there too. So there was basically a lot that you can garner from having something on that shareable platform there. But for the individual images and consistency of like just kind of barraging content, it kind of works better in that flow of like Instagram.
Just because we're getting a little short on time, something I'd like to say is that I think we've all hit that barrier of the 1K on Insta. Would we say?
Yes.
Yep. So okay, we can go into this more in depth. I'm just mindful of the time because we really only have 3 minutes, which sucks.
Sweet.
I'm not even aware. Hopefully we can extend another 5. Okay. So just getting on that road from 0 to 1K, this will be very valuable for the audience. Like, if we could condense in a quick nutshell, maybe a minute each or 2 minutes each, just explaining like what you think your strategy is and what you think is the easiest way to get there, going down that path. And now that you're there, if you were to rinse and repeat it, start from 0, God forbid. But I'll start with you, Martin, honestly, then I'll get on to you, Tim.
Like, as Tim has touched on before, like it was like never about that. Like it wasn't about getting to 1,000. Like Instagram was just about
it is a milestone though. Yes,
it is, of course, always right. But my Instagram, you look at back at it, right? I have posts dating back like 5 years, and there's like 400 photos. They get significantly worse as you keep scrolling. Right?
Stop scrolling.
Yeah.
But like I just put out what I thought looked cool and like stuff that just
is that all there is to the equation for you?
Honestly, well, like only recently that I've like played into the reels and just seeing like this short form stuff that's like really engaging from like audience perspective type thing. But even then, it's been the things like the Rise event, right? Where like capturing not what just like looked cool and what people liked on the day, but just a different perspective on things, right?
Yeah.
It's something that you just wouldn't normally see with your eyes normally.
Yeah.
Like that.
Have you been consistent on the gram as well? Or? Would you?
I was like for a
Stagnant?
little bit at the beginning of the year, and that's when I grew like significantly.
Okay. So about the
But-
amount of work you put in is sometimes end result in output as well.
Well, with the social media game around moment, it's more about posting like consistently. Like
Yeah.
that's probably like how Tim had like a good run there.
Yeah. Go for it, Tim. Let us know yours.
I think the simplest thing is do it for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I only started posting daily because I wanted to justify my spending for more photography stuff.
Fair enough.
Is that if I could at least have something to show for it,
Yeah.
it would justify me pushing my hobby.
Uh-huh.
And if I went back to 0 followers today, I would still keep doing photography.
Nice.
If I made no money tomorrow, I would still be doing photography. It's just something that I enjoy. It's a way that I engage with the space that I go to. I love automotive stuff. I love motorsport. I had to make a choice as to whether or not if I drove at events or if I was behind the camera.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that I'd done the photography enough for myself that when I was faced with the choice to go down photography did have money behind it.
Nice.
There's no one was paying me to get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
They were paying me to take photos. And so that makes it a lot easier to spend the money that, it was either wheels or tires,
Yeah.
or it was getting a return on an investment on photography gear.
I mean, like to add to that, right? Like, if you really need a way to like justify keep spending gear, like get an ABN and just make yourself a business, right? So then everything becomes a tax write-off, and like,
Oh, well,
you know,
look.
it's technically worth it, right?
I have a tumultuous experience with that because everyone made me think all of my friends made fun of me and thought they were calling me a tax fraud because I hadn't. And so I got my ABN. Recently. And then I said, you guys know it's a $75,000 turnover before you have to start declaring GST. They're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Just a fun tip. Don't quote me on this. This is not accounting advice, but this is stuff I have heard from an accountant. 26K. If you are able to declare it as a personal hobby, just saying, no tax. Not advice.
Yeah,
just Google it.
The way that I saw it was that especially with the stuff with like GST declarations and things like that, is that you don't have to do any GST declarations until you hit $75,000 turnover in a year. There's the stuff with like your personal taxes and things like that, which you'll obviously have to declare in like taxing and things like that. But again, like I said, it's if the money stopped tomorrow, the whole reason I'm moving more into charging for my shots is to respect the people who have come and supported me. Is because now it's come to a point where people are actually asking to pay for a service, and I need to respect that. Is that because I can't go to the same event and have someone paying me and then go to another person and say you give it to them for free. And that's a tough thing for me because I in my world I'd like everyone to have my photos. I just enjoy it. It's just something I absolutely love. I say making money from it. I've spent more money than I've earned. Like if I was truly going to be trying to make money off of this, I wouldn't have all the gear that I have because I just love getting the chance to try all this new stuff and push it. So
How much was that new lens of yours again?
I'd rather not say.
All right, guys. We're coming close on time, but if I could say something, actually we're over time, but if I could say something, it's been a pleasure having you both on the show. I really appreciate your contributions.
Pleasure to be here.
And even if you haven't been conscious, honestly, of your efforts to help me out, I'd honestly say you guys have been great help, and I'd love to return in some way, form, or fashion further down the line as well.
No worries.
Of course, it's been a pleasure.
Good to chat to yourself, Martin. It was good to chat to yourself, Ken. Thank you
too,
for having me along.
No worries. Thanks for coming along, Martin and Tim. It's great to have you
having
boys
us
on.
No worries.
All right, let's end this.